Welcome to Nickel City Mafia, where we talk all things Buffalo and then some. Today, we're going to get into the upcoming 2022 Buffalo Bills defense. Jake, did we do enough to prevent another 13-second scenario? Can we be better than the number one defense we put on the field last year? Will we have a defense that can get a big stop when needed? Do we have a Super Bowl caliber defense to face the likes of the Rams, which we're going to find out on opening day Thursday night football against the Rams? We'll get into all that shortly. Before we do, if you're new to the channel, please give us a like, comment, and most importantly, drop a nickel. Drop a nickel on that subscribe button. It's that simple. We greatly appreciate your support. Joining me today, as always, just outside of Buffalo on the East Coast, Mr. Jake Podger. Jake, how you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Mike. I'm so excited to talk some more football. I'm just at a loss lately. I've been trying. You know what's crazy? I have been following European League football as well.
Oh my goodness.
And it's great. So I don't know if you watched any NFL Europe back in the day when that was around. So actually, in my man cave here, I have a couple things, a couple ode to the past of the NFL here. So I have like a Frankfurt Galaxy sign. I have a Ryan Fire one. I have a couple others. But those teams actually have made a comeback, and now they're playing in the European Football League. So you got a bunch of different teams in that league. I think there's 12 total, and I've been watching that to fill the void. And I have, of course, NFL Network running replays and stuff in the background. I follow this guy on YouTube who's actually part of the Mexican Football League as well. I've been trying my hand at everything. I still watch a little bit of the USFL too. Like I said in the last show, it's kind of hard to get into. But for whatever reason, I'm like drawn in by these other like outside like the country leagues. It's so weird. I don't know why. I love it. But yeah, I need NFL football back.
I kind of fill my void by getting ready for these shows. I'm constantly thinking of new shows, talking to you, and then putting the content together. So that kind of fills the void a little bit. And then there are other Buffalo shows that are out there, which I always try to watch and support the other channels out there talking about the Bills. So they bring some great content as well. Good morning, Dad. Good to see you out there this morning. We're going to talk about my dad a little bit later. He's got some big deal going on later on. His first time going live ever. So we'll talk about that a little bit at
all right,
the end.
Bill.
But Jake, I have to talk to you about something right off the bat here. Speaking of 13 seconds, I was watching one of the shows, one of the other Buffalo podcasts, and they were just like, hey, can we please stop talking about the 13 seconds and move on? And I'm not sure what your thoughts are, but for me, 13 seconds will be something we talk about forever. And the reason for me is because I put that in the top 3 of all-time heartbreaking losses for Buffalo Bills fans. It's behind, of course, the wide right. It's behind the Music City Miracle. But there it is at number 3, 13 seconds. Yeah. And not only is it one of the biggest heartbreaking losses, it's one of the best games ever for anyone to watch. Unfortunately, we were on the losing side of that, which hurts. But what's your thoughts on that? Should we stop talking about that and move on, or is that something embedded forever?
I think it's embedded forever, but it's also something that will be, I guess, overshadowed once the season starts. But as of right now, there's really nothing else to talk about. So last night, I was at my brother-in-law's. We had a little nightcap at his bar, and we finished the night off by watching Josh Allen highlights from the entire season, from the 2021 season. And, of course, it ends with the 13 seconds, right? So, and you know what's crazy? That game, you don't have to watch, like, even the first, I don't even know, like, right up until the last 2 minutes is where you probably should just start watching because it's just so damn exciting from that point on. Man. But just obviously unfortunate with the result. So, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be overshadowed or not talked about until the season actually starts again, which is it hurts, and we knew it was going to be a thing. It was going to be the talk of the entire offseason. Our whole draft strategy seems to be surrounded around the 13 seconds, especially taking 2 defensive guys, guys that could possibly contribute and may have stopped that whole 13 seconds from happening. So, and that was in the first 3 rounds we took those guys. We'll talk more about them later on in the show. But, yeah.
What about years from now? I mean, to me, it's something, again, like if someone was to ask me 5, 10 years from now, what are some of the most memorable losses ever for you? And that'll always be on the tip of my tongue. Always.
Certainly.
So
you remember the losses more than the wins, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, hopefully we get the Super Bowl this year, and it's all we can finally stop talking about those heartbreaking losses.
That
and
would
talk
be ideal.
About the big wins. Anyhow, let's get into it. We're going to be talking about breaking down the defense for 2022, and we're going to start with the interior line. We're going to start with the big guys in the trenches, and I'm going to, again, taking some advice from our fans, we're going to throw it over to Jake, start things off. Let's talk about this interior line. We'll start with Ed Oliver. So, Jake, go ahead.
Ed Oliver had a top 5 defensive tackle season last year, and not enough people are talking about how tremendous he is to our defensive line. I mean, the guy, he took some strides, and I mean, it was, for the first 2 years that he was in the league, I think people were very down on his performance, and, maybe he took that to heart. Maybe he heard the criticism, but last year, I mean, he really showed that he is a ball player, and I think he is a top 5 defensive tackle in the league right now at this moment, Mike. So, it's really exciting to have a guy like that again on our defensive line. I mean, it's been really, you look back maybe 2014 around there when we had some studs on that D line, including Jerry Hughes, back when he was like kind of in his prime, Marcel Darius, a couple other guys. This is probably the best defensive line since then. So, and he's a big piece of it. I'm really thrilled to have a guy like that. And, of course, we picked up his 5th-year option, so that's fantastic. I think he's going to have another big year. He's in for another good couple of years with us. So, very exciting to have a guy like that. He's sort of the focal point, I think, on that defensive line. A lot of people talk about Von Miller. Well, Ed Oliver, welcome, baby. Let's get him in the sweepstakes because people need to talk about this guy. I will say this. I like guys flying under the radar because I feel like that's Buffalo in general. We're always the underdogs. We're always the team that's never really talked about. But we have some ballers on this team, and Ed Oliver's one of them. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he also has to like what he saw, the big contract that Aaron Donald just got.
I'm sure. Yeah, now I don't know if that's going to – I was talking about this with a lot of my buddies, just saying, like, how is this going to affect the market now? Yeah. But I think Aaron Donald is so far apart from everyone else. Like, Ed Oliver's really good, don't get me wrong, but he is not Aaron Donald.
Yes.
Aaron Donald's he has separated himself so much from the other defensive linemen in the league. So I don't know if that's going to apply across the board where everyone's going to be like the contracts are going to be that inflated. I think there are one-off positions. It's not like the quarterback position where you need that quarterback. I think defensive line is one of those positions where you can kind of sub in and sub out. But if you have a stud like Aaron Donald or Ed Oliver or a guy that can play, 90% of the snaps, then that's just a nice bonus. But with quarterback, it's a little bit different, right? With receiver, it's a little bit different. Those guys are more singular, not so much, I guess, more game-changing maybe in a way where those guys aren't as replaceable as interior linemen. And nothing against D-line. I love the big boys up front. Huge fan of the trenches, but it's a different type of ball game. And I just don't think they're going to demand the same amount of money as like a skill position guy would. And that's just how it is. But Aaron Donald, good for that guy. Yeah. Way to get paid, man. I don't know how the Rams are still affording this. The salary cap's not existing.
There is no salary cap.
It doesn't happen. Yeah, it's just not there.
Yeah, I didn't mean to compare him to Donald because he's not.
No, I know you weren't doing that, but Donald, how would it affect
Donald sets the bar, right? So it's up here. And if you're in a contract year or you're wanting more money, you're like, all right, is Oliver 70% of Aaron Donald? Is he 60%? So you can kind of work the numbers down that way. But I love having this guy. I mean, he was a staple last year, and he's another big reason why I believe this particular unit is better. But let's move on to the other guys. And before I move on to the other guys, let's just talk about who we lost here on the interior line from last season. I mean, Harrison Phillips, you and I both wanted him to stay around, but he moved on. Vernon Butler, who is that? Did he even play on our team last year? I don't know. No big loss to me. And then, of course, Star Latuele, right? I was a big fan of him early on. Something happened. He just wasn't the same. So those are who we lost. As we get into these next 3 players, let's talk about if they're upgrades over those 3. And we'll start with Daquan Jones. Daquan Jones played with Carolina last season, and prior to that, he was with Tennessee. and I have some info on him, but I'll throw it over to you, Jake, to talk about Mr. Daquan Jones.
Yeah, what I love about him is the fact that he can kind of play that 0 tech. He can also play the 1 tech, the 3 tech. He can play all over the place. So I think the versatility is kind of a thing that was certainly preached this offseason. And Daquan Jones was, a great addition. I think he's an upgrade there. He's a big guy. What is he, 6'4", 329, something like that, Mike? He's a veteran. He's been in the league for a while. He has certainly shown his value to other teams. And I love the move. I think he's going to be one of our starting defensive tackles this year. So, it's exciting. And I think he fills that void that was left by Star Lotulelei and Harrison Phillips. So it's, certainly a good move and an upgrade for us.
I have to agree. So I caught the Jim Rome show the other day, and Jim Rome had him on there, and he was basically talking about him and saying, hey, what were you looking for in a team, during this free agency period? And he said, A, I wanted a winning team. I wanted to be able to go to a winning team. And he said, B, I wanted to be closer to home. So I don't know if you know this, but he's from Johnson City, New York, which is about 3 hours out of Buffalo, close to Binghamton, New York as well. He always, when Jim Rome asked him where he's from, he said Binghamton. And he's like, but aren't you from Johnson City? Oh, yeah, nobody knows where Johnson City is. So he says he always tells people Binghamton because they kind of know where that is.
When I hear Johnson City, I just think of that the Wagon Wheel song by Darius Rucker when he says Johnson City, Tennessee.
I love that song, but I don't recall him saying that Johnson City. I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah.
But so this would be Harrison Phillips and Starr that he's kind of filling that role, and I do believe it's a clear upgrade.
Yeah,
I mean, you just look at this guy's resume. Just look at it. The other big thing too that Jim Rome mentioned is the guy, and I don't want to jinx him. I'm not gonna. Hopefully, I don't. But the guy stays healthy. He knows how to take care of his body. He's availability is a big thing in the NFL, right? If you can stay healthy, which is something Starr couldn't do.
Even Harrison Phillips.
Harrison couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
and Butler too.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So big upgrade. I agree with you. Let's move on to Mr. We got a couple 97s. I don't know what numbers they're going to wear now, but
I can confirm actually on that. I have it up here. I have our lads up, which I like to use a lot, Mike. And it's interesting to see the depth chart on here, and it looks like they have Daquan Jones starting at that right defensive tackle spot. So he's wearing 92. Tim Settle's going to wear 99, and it looks like Jordan Phillips is going to wear 97. So he's back to 97.
All right. So let's talk about Jordan Phillips. He's been here one time before, right?
Yep.
And go ahead, give us your take on him.
Yeah, he ended on a high note. He had 9.5 sacks in his last year with the Bills, and then he went and got paid with Arizona. His time in Arizona wasn't quite as productive, but I think he still got something left in the tank, and that could be a scheme fit type thing, or maybe I think he was also a little banged up too while he was out there. So I think the guy can still play. He was excited to come back to Buffalo, and I know he wants to win a ring here. So I think certainly as a depth guy and as a guy that can come in and rotate, that's an upgrade there. I would say it's an upgrade over Vernon Butler and whoever else we used to have there. So, I love the Jordan Phillips signing. I was really excited to get him back. I was upset when we lost him too. I really was. It was one of those cap casualty things where you just can't pay the guy. So I'm glad that we were able to get him back on a cheaper contract too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Shaq in a little while as well, who we brought back. And I don't know, these guys had a good year with Buffalo, and then they moved on, and they just haven't done much with the other team. So I don't know if I'm as excited as you. He's going to have to show me something this year, but I believe he's got the size. We've seen what he can do. So again, I like him coming back as far. And again, I believe it's an upgrade over who we had last year on the position for sure. So a little bit of a quiet guy here, kind of a role player type guy, Mr. Tim Settle. Why don't you talk to us about him?
Yeah, well, what's crazy with Tim Settle is that he played in a lineup, and we've talked about this before, Mike, where he had 4 first-round picks on that defensive line, so it was hard for him to get a lot of time. So I don't think he could really showcase his entire skill set. I think out of anyone that we signed this year as a defensive lineman, he might be one of the most exciting prospects because he has so much left in the tank. He hasn't really been able to show his full capacity, his full potential. So I think coming here, obviously, it's going to be a similar situation probably to what it was in Washington, but maybe he gets even a little bit more time. It's tough to get time on that D line when you got, some absolute studs in front of you. So yeah, I am really excited about that. I think he had 5 sacks the one year with Washington. Was it last year or the year before? Which 5 sacks, if you look at that total, that's right on top of the sack total from this past year. So yeah, that's an exciting signing, and he's going to be a rotational guy. I think it's another upgrade, obviously, over both Vernon Butler and the other rotational guys on our team. So yeah, very exciting about that, and yeah, good move again.
Yeah, I agree. And when you said the number of sacks, that was on a limited snap count, like you
That's
said.
exactly right.
He
Yeah.
wasn't getting a lot of play. And the only thing I have, which I'm excited about, I look at what fans of Washington said when he left. I forget where I was watching. I was watching something, and there was a lot of comments, and fans that were, fans of the Washington team were saying Buffalo got a nice pick here, got a nice steal, and so I'm excited about that. Yeah, when you look at what he's done with those limited snap counts, yeah, and he's a young guy, big guy. I'm excited. I think again another upgrade here, and
Absolutely.
I didn't put him in this category, but I think he's going to play here and on the edge because we'll talk about him on the edge, so we don't have to get too deep into talking about him right now. But it's Boogie, right? Boogie Bastion.
Yeah.
Last year we saw him play different roles. Who knows? Boogie could play on that interior if needed. Is there anyone else on the interior? I know we got some depth out there as well. We're not talking about every guy, but there's some other guys in this interior line that you think could have an impact, or that you're kind of you've got them on your radar.
Yeah. Actually, a guy that really impressed me last year was Eli Anku. He really kind of came out of nowhere. I love him too because he doesn't wear gloves. He just tapes his fingers, which is awesome. I'm a big fan of guys that are just go out there, bring your lunch pail to work type guys, and that's what he is. So, yeah, I think out of anyone that's one of those quote unquote prospects that the Bills have been sort of developing, it's Eli. So pretty exciting to have him back too. So he's going to be part of that rotation.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's move on to the edge rushers. Right, we got a lot of young guns there with the veterans. So guys we lost obviously were Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison. Right, they were up there in age, and by the way, those two guys are now playing for the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Both of them. How crazy is that?
Isn't that wild?
I mean, that is wild. So I don't know. We don't play Houston this year. It would have been interesting if we did.
I know.
But
that would have been.
Good for Jerry. Jerry got a 2-year, $10 million contract, and Addison got a 2-year, almost $8 million contract. So good for those guys.
Yeah.
It's sad that they're not here to celebrate. Again, I always said Jerry Hughes has got to be a little bummed, but maybe not. That $10 million sounded pretty good, right? Money can make things better to some degree, but he has to think about, man, I was so close on this team. We're so close, and I'm just not there to finish the deal with them. So, but we love Jerry Hughes, all that he brought to Buffalo. So,
do you think he belongs to the Wall of Fame, Mike?
No.
No, really?
No.
Okay.
Wall of Fame is no. Why would you put him on the Wall of Fame? Let me ask you.
It's an interesting question. I think a lot of people are vouching for it. They remember his time here, his first however many years, 7 or 8 years here. I mean, it was all losing seasons except for one, and that was with Kyle Orton at the helm, and we went 9-7. Or no, actually, he did have Tyrod Taylor the 1 year too. So yeah, a little mistaken there, but still, I think this guy came in. He produced. We won that trade big time. Kelvin Shepherd for Jerry Hughes. I mean, that was a phenomenal trade by the Bills back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people fell in love with Jerry. Just he was a fan favorite. Did a lot for the community. I know Josh Allen was very close with him too. They Brittany and Jerry's wife were pretty close. So I think there's a lot of things that factor into that. Could be clouded a little bit with judgment. As far as production goes, I mean, it was there for his first 5 years in Buffalo. After that, it sort of tapered off a little bit. I think 2016 was sort of when he hit a wall, and he was always just top in the league in pressures. But he made some plays. He had some moments, and I think he can certainly be in the conversation to be added to the Wall of Fame. I would maybe agree with you. I think the Wall of Fame is more meant for guys like the Bruce Smiths, guys that are potential Hall of Famers. And I don't think Jerry Hughes is quite that, but definitely appreciate what he did for the Bills, and he had some really productive years with us. And that was a nice, like I was mentioning, 2014. I mean, what a phenomenal year for our entire defensive line across the bat there. And he was part of that. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that.
Well, let me ask you this, because it's been a while since I looked. Who's on the Wall of Fame currently?
I know there's there might be like 12 or so people on that, and most of them are, considerably, they're all pros or
The
Pro
Jim
Bowlers.
Kelly era, right?
Yeah, a lot of that, and then there's some 70 era guys.
Yeah.
Joe Ferguson, and I think there's guys from
Joe,
that
my
era
man,
too.
Joe Ferguson.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
the quarterback when I started following. When I can remember watching the Bills around 7 years old,
Yeah.
Mr. Ferguson was the man. I remember being out playing some touch football in the streets and not pretending to be Ferguson. Joe Ferguson, back to throw. He was the man.
I think Jim Braxton's on the wall too, I want to say.
So Ferguson's an interesting guy because, there wasn't a ton of success with him at the helm there. He wasn't a great quarterback by any means, but so interesting. So if he's really on the wall, and I gotta have to look, then
I want to say he was. I'm trying to think. I'm visioning the stadium, and you go around and you see all the names, and then there's a couple with the number circled. There's only 2, I believe, and that's
Gotcha.
Thurm. Or no, there's 3. Jim Kelly,
right.
Thurm.
We'll have
and
to
then
research that
Bruce.
And get back to the channel here. I see my son Brandon joining us. Good morning, Brandon. Thanks for being out there, buddy. But let's get into these edge rushers. And we talked about the 2 guys we lost, and let's talk about the young guns. And of course, we'll start with the big offseason acquisition of Mr. Von Miller. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. Again, this was one of those like crazy moments where you remember exactly where you were when it happened. This goes down in the books with like the T.O. signing, the Mario Williams signing, and then the Von Miller thing. And I would even say like Shady McCoy too when we got him.
Okay.
So it, obviously a splash in the pan type moment, right? Where you think this is going to be incredible. And I hope it is. I think it is. I think it's going to be good for at least 3 years for us, where we still are going to get that end of the year or end of his career, like, but still very above average to Pro Bowl level Von Miller. So a great signing for us. It's not fully guaranteed. Only 3 years is guaranteed, which is perfect. And I think that's all we really need out of him. Really only need 1 year out of him. If we win a Super Bowl this year because of Von Miller, it's a success. So great move by the Bills. He's already coaching up Greg Rousseau and a lot of the other guys on that defensive line. So, yeah, phenomenal move. I am so excited. I think it brings some more energy to the fan base, as if we needed any more energy. But it's a guy that can get to the quarterback still. He still had 9.5 sacks last year. A lot of people I think a lot of people were down on the signing originally. But this is a guy that brings more than just obviously the production throughout his career. He's a guy that brings the leadership, and you're seeing that already in OTAs. So he's been out golfing too with Joe Hayden a lot. I don't know if we're going to sign Joe Hayden or what, Mike, but that could be another interesting signing for our defense. But yeah, great move by the Bills. I love it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just the leadership he brings. And then, yeah, in OTAs, we were seeing clips of him working with, Rousseau and these other guys, and they're just listening. I mean, they're just soaking it all in.
Oh, yeah.
And it's great that he is willing to do that. He has no fear of losing his job or anything. It's not like a quarterback that comes in and these quarterbacks are saying, it's not my job to coach these guys. But nothing like that from Von Miller. He is showing them the ropes. And, that guy right there, when I mentioned it at the top of the show, I said, did we do enough to prevent a 13-second scenario? I think that's one of the big moves to prevent a 13-second scenario.
Absolutely.
So big upgrade, obviously, huge upgrade there. Now the next 3, they're the same from last year. Let's start with Epinesa. Epinesa got off to a great start. Looked like, all right, this is the year. Everyone's been talking about this is going to be his breakout year. I don't know. Then he got pretty silent. So talk to me about Epinesa, what you saw last year. What happened?
What's amazing with him is he has maybe one of the fastest get-offs in the league. And I think they actually timed this with PFF just to compare him to the other defensive ends across the league. And he was like right in the top 5. It was crazy. And you go back, you look at that Dolphins game where he really came out and showed something. And you got a little excited about it. But after that, he sort of just tapered off. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was just a lack of maybe it was the rotation that was messing him up a little bit, or I'm not sure. Maybe he was overly pursuing, over aggressive. He was getting sucked in a little too much. There was a lot there. I think people got really excited after that Dolphins game, and the disappointment sort of came after that. And I think it's just because there wasn't production afterwards. I think he did a lot of little things that showed improvements that people don't really talk about. Obviously, him being able to get off the ball as fast as he does is huge for us. But I do think he can over pursue. He gets sucked in sometimes on plays. He gets washed out by tackles at times, and I think that's due to also his size, although he did put on some weight. But this is year 3 now, Mike. So
Yep.
This is a big year. This is kind of a make or break year, I think, for him. So happy that we still have him. He's learning from the right guy, Von Miller. So I would, if I was him, I would just be a sponge and absorb everything you could possibly learn from Von, and learn it from a guy who's done it and has produced.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I mean, he almost single-handedly ruined or ended Tua's career.
Yeah, really.
The shot that he put on
Mhm.
Tua was unbelievable. And so, yeah, it was a little disappointing. But again, having that leadership, I think, will elevate him. It's kind of like having a Josh Allen, a Tom Brady on your team. These guys are going to get elevated just because of Von Miller on that line.
Yeah.
And, of course, having another year under their belt, and now not being in the shadow of Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison, this is their time. And I think we're going to see that. So let's move on to another guy who I really think is going to have a huge year, is Mr. Gregory Rousseau. So talk to us about Mr. Rousseau.
This guy is when we drafted him, I mean, he was a very raw prospect, a guy that didn't play a ton in college. He actually missed a year because of the COVID year, and man, I mean the size, the specimen that he is one thing, and then another thing for him to come out and play the way he did last year. I think you saw a lot of growth as the season went on, and as a run stopper, pretty damn good. And that's something that we've been kind of lacking in, especially on the edge there. So, I mean, it's a great combination. I think if he can figure out his pass rush, and I think he has it. I think he does, but he's learning from the right guy again. Von Miller being able to coach him up a little bit. Yeah, this guy is going to be a freak of nature, and he's going to be an absolute tear for offensive lines in years to come. So it's an exciting time. I think we made the right move by drafting him. I know scouts were very high on him. He was going to be a project, but he actually got a lot of playing time last year. So I think that year under his belt is huge, and it's enormous for this upcoming season. I think he's going to have a monster year. I think it's going to be a 10-sack season for him.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me that you say that. I could see that happening. I mean, he reminds me of like I don't know if you remember a guy, Ed Too Tall Jones. I mean,
yeah, wow,
this big height on this guy. Listening to some of the shows that are have the privilege of being at the OTAs, they were talking about that he's coming in with a little more, not bulk, but he's just
a little more meat on his body,
a little more meat on there,
as if he needed any more. He was very lean,
yeah,
but tall, So yeah.
So, I mean, we saw some of the great plays that he made last year. The one that comes to mind is that big play in Kansas City, right, where he made that interception on Mahomes. As Kansas City was starting to, edge their way back into that game, he pretty much shut it down for good with that big play there. So excited about Rousseau. And again, last year, I said Basham was going to be more of an impact player than Rousseau, because Basham had played. He didn't take the COVID year off, and I just thought he was more ready, but he wasn't. So let's talk about Basham, because last year you and I were constantly saying, why isn't Basham in there? And then whenever they would activate him and let him play, he seemed to make plays. So talk to me about Boogie Bastion.
I love Boogie for the fact that the versatility. He could play inside. He could play outside. He plays special teams. You saw him block some field goals last year. I love what he brings to the team, and I would like to see him integrated a little bit more and rotated in and out, because I do think that he's an impact player. I was kind of scratching my head a little bit last year when he was a healthy scratch for multiple games. I didn't really understand that. So He's almost in that same type of situation that AJ Epinesa is, because I think the potential is there. And actually, Boogie has shown more to me than AJ has. So I'm hoping this is kind of a wake up call year for him and for the team. I do think they realize his potential, but I would like to see him more. I would like to see him in the lineup more. Maybe even a special package for him and Epinesa on the field at the same time, or maybe him and Greg Rousseau, him and Von Miller. I know Von Miller. They were even saying he's not going to play like 95% of the snaps. He's going to even be rotating a little bit. So that is certainly interesting. But I think he's the right guy. I mean, it's a good guy to have as that depth guy, and he can bring the energy when he's on the field. So we saw the impact he can make, Mike. I think it's just a matter of time here.
Yeah, when you talk about like Rousseau with 10 sacks and Basham, and I'm curious, the Bills, they do a lot of rotation, like you said. I don't know if anyone played more than 50% of the snaps last year.
I think it was 57 was the highest, and that was Jerry Hughes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they continue to stick with that, it's kind of hard to get those big number sacks, right? It's hard to get those 10-plus sacks. And Von Miller, it'll be interesting. Like, I think we're going to rotate him quite a bit, but what do you think he's going to be? 50%, 60%?
No, I think he'll be higher. Yeah, I think he'll be 75%.
All right. But the other guys here, it'll be very interesting on what their rotation is. I would like to see Rousseau at least 60% of snaps, in my opinion. I'd like to see him on there. And then the other two guys, 40-ish, whatever. But I think Rousseau's the guy there. I want to see him on the field more with Von Miller than the other two. But it's great to have those other two at depth when we need to give those two guys a rest and come in there, and hopefully we don't lose a whole lot. And there's another guy that I didn't put on here, another guy, a Rex Ryan round 1 pick a few years back, Mr. Shaq Lawson. I know you're kind of high on the guy. Again, I'm one of these guys, like, I remember when we drafted him, and I was, of course, I had high hopes for the guy, and he had a good year. Was it 2019? And then he moved on and just didn't do anything. And I don't know if that's because of injuries. Maybe you have some more insight. Yeah. But, talk to me about Shaq Lawson.
Yeah, I think injuries have derailed him. Also, the lack of having a good coach. No offense to the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Texans, but not necessarily Sean McDermott-esque, if you will. So I think he's in the right situation. Another guy that wanted to come back to Buffalo, and a guy that was rumored to have been signed by the Bills in the postseason even. But that never happened. So I'm glad that we were able to get him in the official offseason here. And another thing with him is that he's always been a pretty good run stopper. So that's a nice balance to have, where you have good pass rushing and then you have the guys that are able to stop the run on the edge. So it's a really nice situation that we have with him. So another good depth guy, a guy that's going to be in the lineup a little bit here and there. Not sure if he's going to be rotated in more or less than like Boogie and AJ Epinesa, but he has a place on this team for sure.
I think so. Okay. I was just going to ask you that. I mean, he's still fighting for a roster spot.
There's no
guarantee that he'll make this squad.
And he's still pretty young. What is he, 26, 27?
Yeah. I mean, he was drafted in, when was he drafted?
2017, I want to say.
Okay. So yeah, so very young still.
Yeah.
I know 2019 was kind of his breakout year. But all right. Well, good stuff there. And again, yeah, it's nice to have that depth.
2016, by the way, Mike. I just looked it up. I had to verify. It was 2016 he got drafted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, still pretty young guy, and we'll see what he can bring to this defense. You answered the question. I was like, do you think he even has a shot? He has a shot, obviously. A big.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But he's fighting for a spot, in my opinion, and we'll see. Because yeah, I just don't know what happened in those. I have to chalk it up to injuries. I'm going to chalk it up to injuries is why.
I think injuries and coaching.
Okay. All right, excellent. Is there anyone else on the edge rusher that's kind of on your radar? Like, hey, maybe, just maybe, this guy I can't think of anyone else. I think we've touched on all the guys that we can see.
I'm trying to think. I'm actually looking right now just to see if anyone piques my interest here. There's a lot of undrafted guys that we signed.
Yeah.
Not really. I'll be honest with you, not really. I mean, we'll see what they do in preseason, but
okay.
Yeah, I think this is our core right here.
All right. So overall, Jake, to start us off, both on the interior and the edge rushing, for me, big upgrade.
Oh, absolutely.
There you
Yeah,
go,
without
bro.
a doubt. Also, I meant to mention Tim Settle's only 24,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
he's young. I
yeah.
mean,
He's drafted with Washington. He played 4 years for
yeah,
them. So, like I said, I'm excited about Tim Settle. Like you said, he could be a big surprise this year. He might
yep,
open the eyes of a lot of people this year with what he does. All
absolutely.
right, so big upgrades here. Let's move on to where, yeah, it's going to be a little interesting to see if we upgraded at these next few positions. So let's move on. Let's get into the linebackers. Obviously, Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. And we'll talk about the other guy in a little bit because he needs a special announcement before we talk about him.
Yeah,
But returning, we lost AJ Klein. That was really the only guy we lost.
hmm
Andre Smith is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. So you got to ask yourself: are the Bills going to still retain a spot for him? I liked what I saw in Andre Smith. He was obviously a special teams guy.
right.
Saw him in preseason. He always seemed to make plays, and I expected to see more of him on the field during the season, but we didn't see that. So he's suspended now for 6 games, and I don't know if that cost him a spot or not. But you can share your thoughts on that in a little bit.
What excites me about that, and this sounds
Yeah,
bad because you never want to
yeah,
see a guy get suspended. It excites me a little bit because it gives my guy, who I've been high on, I know he's a 7th-round pick, but Balin Spector, Mike, gives him a shot to compete. So yeah, I mean it's a brutal thing to be suspended 6 games. I like Andre Smith as well. I think he certainly serves the value of being a good special teams player, but Balin Spector time, baby. Let's go. I know you don't know that name. It's not a household name or anything
it
like
is
that,
not.
but man, I'm excited for him. I think he's a good special teams player. Could eventually plug in a little bit. I don't think he's going to really ever start for this team, but it's going to be a guy like Chase Blackburn. That's what I compare him to. So,
Okay,
former
interesting.
Giant.
Well, I always say you have more insight on those, those late round picks and those college guys than anyone. So it'll be interesting to see if he makes the squad. Now with Andre Smith being out for six games, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see if he even makes the squad. But that's a big loss. 6 games.
It is. Yeah,
Our
that's enormous.
that's our
Yeah,
hardest part of our schedule is those first 7 games. And to
right.
not have him for those is going to be interesting. But let's
It
talk about the
hurts.
guys that we know are here. They're back. Mr. Matt Milano. Go ahead, Jake.
Yep. Yeah, I think a top 10 player on this Bills team. I was actually looking. There was an account that I follow on Instagram, and they rated all of the Bills, like every single player on the team. So it was like 1 through 92 or something like that. And it was really interesting to see. And I think he was at like number 5. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think this guy does get enough credit for how good he is. I think he is a Pro Bowl linebacker who's had some injury issues in the past,
Mm-hmm.
but a guy that runs sideline to sideline. He has the ability to cover. He's a great weak side linebacker, and he plays a role on this team that is so huge. And if we lose him, Mike, the depth behind him, that's kind of tough. I mean, it's
Yep.
kind of an irreplaceable guy, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm so happy that we still do have him and that we got him locked up right now, which is great. So, yeah, he's going on year 2 of that contract signing, which I think this is going to be a nice year for him. Big year.
Yeah, like you said, the only concern there is he's definitely had some injury issues over the past few years. He always seems to miss a few games because of a hammy. But
And it's felt when he misses those games. It
yeah,
is felt. His
yeah,
presence is missed.
definitely. And with no AJ Klein there, it's going to be interesting who fills the role. This whole linebacking core, the depth behind them is a
Yeah,
little suspect, but
it
we'll talk
is.
about that more. But let's move on to the most interesting
Most
person on this
polarizing
linebacker,
player.
right? The one who's in his contract year, Mr.
Yeah.
Tremaine Edmonds. I'll start with you, and then I have some follow-up questions for you. So talk to me about Tremaine.
So the biggest thing that you actually just mentioned is that it's his contract year. And for whatever reason, guys just seem to turn it on a little bit more during their
Flip the
contract year.
switch.
Yeah, and I think the Bills recognize that. So this is a make or break year for him. I think a lot of people thought last year was a make or break year, but this is it. So if he wants to continue playing and if he wants to get paid, whether it's here or elsewhere, this is the year to do big things. I think the middle linebacker position is not a natural fit per se for Tremaine, but he did get better. And I do think that he was able to impress a little bit towards the end of the year. You started seeing some more discipline by him. I think a lot of times he was one of those guys who over pursued or would be in the right position but wouldn't make the play. And you started seeing him sort of finish those plays. But a lot of people will still tell you that we should have traded him for like a draft pick, or we should have traded him during the NFL draft for another big name player. A lot of guys out there saying that we should have signed Bobby Wagner even, and got rid of Tremaine. And I do think it's going to be an exciting year for him just because it is that contract year. So I look to see him do some big things, and my faith is in him. I'm going to give him one more year, and we'll see what happens. But again, I don't know if that position is a natural fit for him. But the problem is, if you put him on edge, I don't know if he seems to almost like shy away from contact sometimes. So a lot of people are saying that he's too quote unquote soft to play on the edge. Yeah. So where do you put him? Do you play him in the middle? Do you play him on the edge? Do you send him up? Now, he is good when you send him up the middle on like blitzes and stuff like that. I think his size is huge for that. Puts his hands up, gets some he's a nice distraction, So
yeah,
it'll be exciting to see how we use him this year.
It's funny that you say you're going to give him another year because honestly, Jake,
I feel like we've been saying that.
There's no other option. There's no other option for us at middle linebacker, right? He's the best we got. And it's sad to say because, again, you can take PFF grades with a grain of salt, but PFF for Tremaine Edmonds is below 50%, Jake.
Oh, no.
Last year, below 50%. And again, I have high hopes because, when I always talk about this when I'm in fantasy football leagues, and if there's a guy I'm looking for, it's a guy who's on a contract year because they, like you said, they flip that switch. Off. Something happens. I don't know why they wait till the contract year.
Right.
But and to have to hold out hope that it's because of his contract year that he flips the switch, I just don't know.
Yeah, you hate to know. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, there's something missing with that athleticism. We say this over and over again. This guy should be dominating. He really should. He should be making more tackles for losses, making some more interceptions. Coverage should be a bit better. He's got everything. He's got, from the physicality standpoint, he's got all that you would want. It just hasn't transferred on the field. And I have to ask you a very important question. I was watching again. I always support the other Buffalo shows out there. And they said that they believe no matter what type of year Tremaine has, whether it's an all-pro year, he turns it around, flips that switch, whether he has another one of his mediocre years like he's, been having. Of course, people are going to disagree. I mean, I think, did he make all-pro? Has he been an all-pro?
No, I don't think so. No, okay. He was a Pro Bowler the year before, though.
Okay, yeah. So he's been a Pro Bowler in the past. So some folks will say, what are you talking about, Mike? But most others will understand what I'm saying. But this channel said that they don't believe, no matter what type of season he has, that he will be back with the Buffalo Bills. They said they believe the Buffalo Bills have made up their mind already. Otherwise, they would have extended his contract.
He's a stopgap, essentially, then.
What's your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. I can definitely see it because if he does have a good year, then you got to pay the guy. And
big money.
Then who's to say that his play doesn't decline after that? I hope his main motivation isn't just money. I mean, obviously it's a motivation for sure.
Yeah.
But I hope it's not the only reason why he's going to play well this year is because he wants a big contract and then he just after that does nothing. Because we've seen that happen. And that's happened to some big name guys in the past. But yeah, it's an interesting take. I can certainly see that happening. And maybe it is this is an audition year essentially for him. So hope he has a big year because then maybe it helps us get a Super Bowl, Mike. And if he does and then he leaves the Bills after that, thank you for your service. It's great. Glad you got paid elsewhere. And now we can maybe draft a guy in the middle there, or we sign another veteran that, has proven himself over the years.
Yeah, and we'll talk about in a little bit whether we think this. I mean, you look at the two guys that are returning from last year.
Yeah.
Did we get better in this area? And our depth is pretty much the same as it was last year as well.
Yeah.
There's some concerns there. If Edmonds goes down, who's going to fill that middle linebacker? But again, we'll wait here just a few more minutes before we say whether we feel that the linebacking core will be upgraded from this year. Let's talk about this next gentleman who probably won't see the field a lot. But before I even say his name, I think we need to give him, I think when you say this gentleman's name, you need to go back and roll the film on probably the best draft announcement ever. And he's always going to be known for that. So let's roll the film and listen to this. Here we go.
Good evening, Las Vegas. Good evening, my brothers and sisters on the NFL Network. And good evening, Western New York. I find it perfect that the Bills are drafting in this city of luck, of chance, because you all know, and I know, the only thing in this world that can stop Josh Allen is the flip of a coin. So Mafia, mount up! And every other fan base, listen up! Chiefs fans, Raiders fans, Bengals fans, in my hands, I hold the most important pick of this entire round, because this pick is the only pick who will win the Super Bowl in his rookie year. With the 89th pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Super Bowl 57 champion Buffalo Bills select my man, Terrell Bernard, linebacker, Baylor.
What an electric factory. Can we have Kyle Brandt just do all of our games too? My gosh.
Oh, it is so funny. I love listening to that all the time. It's so
I could listen to that on repeat for the rest of my life,
so
Mike.
good. So
Incredible.
there he is. Terrell Bernard, again, a little bit of a surprise for most of us, but Jake, I've had time to watch his film, and I'm starting to like him more and more each day. Every time I watch something new or hear something new about him. So talk to us about Terrell Bernard.
Yeah, it's like another Matt Milano, essentially. And I do think, so I actually disagree a little bit, Mike. I think that there's going to be specific packages for him that he's going to come in and he's going to be like that, almost like a hybrid Thomas Davis type, where he can play like more of a coverage role, because he's been that's sort of what he was used for in college a little bit. In addition to blitzing, the guy has ability to rush the passer, and he can go up the middle and do some blitzes right up the middle too. But I think that there's going to be some certain packages where we utilize him, and it might be just him and Matt Milano. So it's going to be a smaller package, or we have three linebackers, and it's going to be Matt Milano, Tremaine, and then Terrell Bernard. Terrell Bernard sort of taking that role that Taron Johnson has,
right.
Bigger body, being able to cover guys, move in space. So it's an exciting draft pick. I think a lot of people were head scratching because there were some other guys on the board at the time that maybe we should have taken over him. But the versatility that he offers, the fact that we can play him out in coverage, and he could sort of act as like that hybrid role where he can play that linebacker position, but also play, in coverage and be that sort of rover almost. It's an exciting thing. So, I think it's a great year for him to learn and develop. He's got the right guys ahead of him. I think Matt Milano is a good guy to learn from, because he's going to probably play. I think for him, he is your prototypical weak side linebacker. And I know they kind of, I guess you have two, right? You have the weak side and you have the strong side. And right now, if you have three linebackers and you're looking at it more in the general sense, you have to determine who's going to play each side, right? And I think Matt Milano is our official weak side linebacker. So maybe Terrell Bernard is that other strong side linebacker guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. But I think he's going to be packages that are specific for him, which is going to be great. So great pick by the Bills.
Yeah,
and better announcement.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. So we talked about last year, like, hey, when we were struggling against the run, it's like, yeah, we love Taron Johnson. We're both huge fans of his, but it'd be nice to get that third linebacker in there. And this guy could play that, maybe to give Taron Johnson a few, rest and put him out when we need a run stuffer in there. And this guy could rush the passer really well. He brings about 30 more pounds than Taron Johnson does. And he gets to the quarterback, and he's pretty decent speed. He ran like a 4.59 40. And so, yeah, he can come in for Taron and play that slot cover guy, put some pressure on the quarterback. And you're right. We'll probably see him more than I was thinking. But it was
blitz
kind of
packages too.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of a head scratcher at 3, but the more the more I read about this guy, the more film I watch. And the Bills, I trust in Bean and all the homework they do. They saw something in this guy to take him with a 3rd round pick. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I want to say hi to the Trek reviewer out there. Thank you for coming out and supporting us, buddy.
Heck yeah.
It's good to see you. I also want to say, hey, we are streaming live to Facebook. This is the 3rd show we're doing it. And if you're over on Facebook, and I see someone gave us a like from Facebook, if you're over on Facebook and you like what you're seeing, make your way over to YouTube for us and hit that subscribe. Drop a nickel on that subscribe button for us. Give us a like, give us a comment. It's great that you're over there on Facebook. We'd love to get you over there on YouTube as well. So appreciate that. So the big question here, Jake, did we upgrade? Did we upgrade here? And I'll let you answer first. I mean, tell me what you think.
I think it's a slight upgrade. And the reason why is because AJ Klein couldn't really play in coverage. So now we have a unique ability where we have 3 pretty athletic linebackers on our team. And then the rest, the depth. So obviously the depth is kind of an issue, but it's also sort of the same as it was last year. The depth that we have, all those guys are special teams players. I don't think any of them are really starting linebacker material for right now. And that could change. But I think with these immediate 3, it's exciting. You have guys that are very athletic, that are more of those modern NFL linebackers. And I don't know if Tremaine technically is. Like I said, I don't know if that's his natural position, playing in the middle like that. But I like what we did there, and I do think it's a slight upgrade for us. AJ Klein was a pretty good run stopper, but he was only a 2-down linebacker. So this is exciting to have a guy that can potentially play 3 downs or 4 downs.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Slight upgrade, and for me, the reason is simply because of that line in front of him. With the addition of Von Miller, we already said that line is a huge upgrade from what we had last year. That front line will help every other position on this team.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where the slight upgrade comes from. Obviously, Tremaine Edmonds, hopefully, flipping the switch. And again, with the addition of Terrell Bernard with some special packages that you talked about. So slight upgrade here. So it'll be interesting. But this, to me, is the area where it will really elevate us. If this position, this linebacking core, can take it to another level, oh, man, watch out. And then the Czech
I love this guy already, Mike. I'm sorry to interrupt. I freaking love that. I am so happy you just said that. Oh, I love Balin Spector. I might get a jersey. That is how passionate I am about this pick. I know he's a 7th round pick, Mike.
Wow.
But day 3 picks, man. You've seen it on the offensive side. You're about to see it on the defensive side as well. I mean, Taron Johnson announced at my freaking wedding. When I was at the altar, I remember he got selected. Day 3 picks for the Bills, we have not really missed on those. So, Balin Spector, baby. I know he's a 7th round pick, but he's got an opportunity with Andre Smith being suspended. I think the guy is a smart football player. He's an X's and O's guy. He's a high motor guy, high effort guy. He's gonna probably play specials. But you never know. Maybe he creeps up into the lineup. And I think that would be fantastic if it happened. But for right now.
Tell us a little more about him. What college? What size does he have? What's the physicality he brings? And I always look at his 40-yard time. That's always important to me for some reason.
I think he's a 4'6" guy, something like that. But his brother, he's decent size. He's about the same size as these guys, actually. So not huge. All but right. Well, not the same size as Tremaine, but same size as like Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard. Okay. But he's kind of like, the way that he plays, he's sort of like one of those old school thumpers, which I love. And there's not really as much of a place in the NFL for guys like that. But he certainly offers a value on special teams because he's a high motor guy, high effort guy, high energy guy, a guy that Sean McDermott loves. So he will have a spot on this team. I definitely think he's making this roster. And then maybe time will tell if he can actually play in the league and kind of integrate in a starting defense somewhere, whether it's here or elsewhere. But I do think he makes the squad. I think he's going to play specials, and just a guy that's there for the high energy, the high motor. So love the comment, man. That is awesome. The Trek reviewer, appreciate the heck out of that because I have been big on Balin Spector for a while. I was so excited when we drafted him. I like his brother Brandon a lot too. He plays for Clemson. He's a receiver there, a slot guy. And you know how I love my slot receivers, Mike. So was super fired up when we drafted him.
Yeah, the Trek reviewer also says, I have a feeling Edmonds will be gone by next year.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
We were just talking about that for sure. There's a show that I was watching earlier in the week, and they basically said they feel the Bills have made up their mind. So
yeah,
you could be right there. So we'll be looking back at the as the season goes on, and we'll be thinking, the Trek reviewer and Jake, did you get it right with Mr. Balin Spector?
I hope so. I'm going to get a jersey of him, Mike. Got to order it on DHgate. So here we go.
All right. Good deal. All right, so slight upgrade for both of us, both you and I, on the linebacking core. Let's move on to the next position, the secondary here. And let's start with who we lost. We lost Levi Wallace, right? Levi had been with us, 4 years? 4 years roughly?
Yep.
And moved on to Pittsburgh. And we have Trey White coming back from an ACL injury. We don't know when Trey will be back to full speed. Heck, we don't even know if he'll be ready for opening day. They're being kind of being quiet about that for sure. So let's start with, of course, the big ad of Mr. Cair Elim, who looks like he's going to be wearing 24 this year. But talk to me about Cair. We know we were super excited. That was our guy on draft day. That's who you and I pegged us picking this guy. So no surprise for us that he's on our team.
Yeah.
It's hard to see anything from OTAs. People have been talking about him a little bit, but we won't know until we get into camp and really preseason and then the game. But talk to me about Cair. Let's start with him.
First off, I love the 24 selection. I'm glad he didn't go with a single-digit number or something like that. I think this is more traditional. I'll tell you what, a lot of good 24s in the past, Mike. Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson. The list goes on, right? Terrence McGee. Shout out to Terrence McGee, former Bill. Good return guy, decent in coverage, but I love the 24. It looks good on him. But the nice part about Cair Elim is obviously the size aspect, right? The fact that he can play man coverage, I think 13 seconds is totally erased from our memories. If he's on that team last year and plays, he's able to jam Travis Kelce at the line. Not sure why we stopped using Saran Neal and why we didn't really game plan the same way we did in the first game against the Chiefs. Again, I will scratch my head till I die about that. But this guy right here, even better. He offers that unique ability to play some press coverage, some man coverage, something that the Bills haven't really done a lot of. So I'm excited for this guy. I love the pick, Mike. It was my go-to first rounder going into mock draft season, and I'm so glad that we got him. Obviously, NFL bloodlines. His uncle Matt Elam playing in the CFL right now, which is so weird to say because Matt Elam's only in his young 30s, but his dad is Abram Elam, who played with the Browns and a couple other teams in the league back in the mid-2000s. But it's a great move for us and certainly an upgrade there. I think it's an upgrade over Levi Wallace already. So very excited. Now there is the concern, right? You have Tre'Davious White, who might not be back till first week or second week in October. That's what I've been hearing a little bit. So, yeah, you got a rookie corner out there. You got Dane Jackson. You got a couple other guys in the mix. Obviously, Taron Johnson's still playing in the slot, so we're not worried there. I think we're solidified at that spot. But who's the other outside corner? Is it going to be Dane? I think with experience and who's played in the past, Dane did a nice job last year. He was very serviceable. But does that scare you a little bit where you have Cair Elim and Dane Jackson on the outside? I don't know.
Scares the heck out of me.
Does it? Yeah.
It does. It scares the heck out of me.
So the nice part is, though, I think you can get away with it because we have such a good defensive line now. Last year, if we had the same lineup where we don't have the same defensive line, obviously, I'd be a little worried. You have a rookie out there and then a guy that is like Dane Jackson, who he has the experience. He did a nice job, but still makes some mistakes at times. So, but now, I mean, I think we have the depth up front where you can get away with having less experience at the corner position for right now. So I'm not too worried. And I like the point that he makes here too about DeMar Hamlin and Jaquan Johnson too, because I know they're pretty high on both of them. So that's exciting too.
Gotcha. So for me, for Cair, obviously I think he's going to be an upgrade eventually over Levi. I don't know if day one that's going to be the case. Levi did have that experience, and Levi, people people always beat him up, but
I know.
he was that guy opposite of Trey White who all offenses would focus on, and of course you're going to have more thrown to your side, you're going to get beat more, but he did a pretty damn good job up until that 13 seconds, and I'm going to put that on the coaching staff. I really am.
Yeah.
Not him, even though he was on that side. I'm not putting that on him. But so I believe Cair will be ultimately an upgrade, big upgrade potentially. But day one, I don't know if I can say that. So I'm kind of on the fence there if we upgraded there for at least for the first few weeks. I think midseason he's going to be in full form, and we're going to see some special things from Mr. Cair. But maybe
I'll tell you what, Mike. Do me a favor. I talked about this earlier. Go turn on that Alabama film.
I know.
Where he shut down Jamison Williams and John Mechie. Oh, my Lord. It is a thing of beauty.
You don't have to tell me. I mean, you and I, we talked about it. He was our guy.
Love him.
He was the one we wanted, and we got him. So super excited. But I'm not going to disrespect Mr. Levi Wallace.
I understand. I respect that. I respect that.
And then Trey White, like we said, we don't know. Now, a shame on me for not putting Taron Johnson on this slide. Shame on me. What the heck am I thinking?
That's okay.
Taron's looking at the show. He's like, Mike, where am I? Why come you didn't even put me?
And that's your guy, Mike. You always predict him to get a pick six every game.
Oh my God! But the Bills play nickel, so I should have him on there. They mostly play nickel. Taron Johnson, one of the best. We have some interesting depth, right? We got Taron Johnson, we got Saran Neal, we got Mr. Elijah Griffin, who people don't talk about a lot, but he's been with the team now. He was with on the practice squad all year last year. These guys got experience. The Bills have him again on their team on the practice squad. He's going to be fighting for a spot. Who knows? He was a 4-star recruit at USC. Obviously, he's got some skills. And his dad is,
Warren
famous
G.
rapper Warren G. I mean, come on. He's got a lot of things going for him. So, and then, Dane Jackson, definitely with the experience there. Yes, he could be day one starter. I think he is. If Trey's not ready, I agree with you. It's going to be Cair and Dane Jackson in the starting lineup.
It was interesting too. I want to give a shout out to the one guy. He was he commented on our last video, and he gave a breakdown of what he thinks going to happen throughout the preseason and kind of what the cuts are going to be and stuff like that. And he brought up Nick McLeod, which is a really interesting name as well. And I think that battle between him and Elijah Griffin is going to be interesting to see who makes the cut, because both of them have a nice skill set. Both of them have played well in the preseason. So that's going to be very interesting. Yeah, there it is. I think Nick McLeod has a good chance of making the team. Very intriguing prospect for sure. He had a really nice preseason last year. He's always shown out. He's done his job. And if, that's another guy where not really a household name or anything like that, but if anyone can develop him, Sean McDermott can. He's really proven that he can develop corners. So he's an exciting prospect.
Yeah, and the only thing I heard out of OTAs this year about, I didn't hear much about McLeod, but I you had said it, and the other gentleman who commented on our show was big on him, and now you hear the Trek reviewer. And Elijah Griffin, the only thing I heard about him is there was some heated battle in one of the first days of OTAs where he got into it with, I think, Saran Neal. I could be wrong, but whoever it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
They had to be restrained. I mean, there had to be people.
I love it.
And you kind of like that.
Competition, baby.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think Dawkins was asked about it, and he's like, hey, this is expected. If you don't see this type of thing, guys fighting for their spot, then there's something wrong.
This is the toughest roster to crack in years, I think, for the Bills right now. We have so much depth in so many areas. It's going to be crazy to see what happens with cuts and even trade prospects, too. Another point that this guy brought up, and I know this is offense, but even said Jamison Crowder might be a trade prospect midway through the year for a team that might be looking to compete or maybe lacking depth at the receiver position because of Khalil Shakir and our depth at the receiver position even. So it's going to be wild, Mike. I'm so excited to see what happens in the preseason. I'm ready for it to start.
We should check. That might have been the Trek reviewer. I don't know. If it is you, he went into detail. It
was amazing. You know what?
I mean,
it may have been.
All right. Well, let's see here. He's got a question for us here. Do you think Bean can talk Fitz into a practice squad spot instead of retiring? Because I do not want Barkley getting anywhere close to the field. That's a great idea.
Well,
I
did you
love
hear
that.
what Fitzy said and why he
No.
wouldn't sign with the Bills? So he believes in curses, and any time that he's the backup quarterback, the starter typically gets hurt. So he doesn't want to put that curse on Bills Mafia and Josh Allen. But and it was him. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I knew I was starting to put two and two together. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable. I really appreciate your analysis and everything. I think it's fantastic. So yeah. Yeah, I would love to have him here. Obviously, it'd be great to see him win a ring and go out on top like that. But even practice squad, that's an interesting point because then if you're on the practice squad, you're not even really dressing for games, and it's like a good locker room guy to have too.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. Jinx aside or superstition aside, I kind of love that idea because honestly, if Josh, heaven forbid, did go down for a game or two.
Yeah, I mean, we have Case Keenum.
Yeah, I know.
I like Case.
If I had to choose between Case and Fitz,
I'd take Fitzy.
Fitz, right?
More exciting, more loved by the fan base. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we know what Fitz does. I mean, when he gets into
He's exciting.
when he joins the team again, he always has a first good season.
His first 4 games, he looks like one of the most elite quarterbacks.
Yeah. He's like, wow, why is this guy not starting for a team, right?
Yeah. And I know, and the best part is his players, the guys on the team, all want to play for him. That's something that Josh Allen has too. It's the same type of vibe, right? So all the players on the team, they want to rally for him, which I think Fitzy brings that same energy, which is great.
Yeah, here. So I think we mentioned Cam Lewis as well. So we got depth. We got a lot of the same guys. So from a cornerback standpoint, just cornerback. Let's not talk about the safeties yet. Did we upgrade? And I say for day one, maybe even through week 4 or 5, I do not think we upgraded. I'm just saying for the first 4 weeks, and that's because obviously we're without Trey. And Cair's getting his legs under him. So
yeah,
a little concerned. But like you said, that front line, again, that's what I'm hanging my hat on, is that front line has upgraded so much that it's going to help every other flaw we have, right? It's going to help every other position. Now, these next two we're going to talk about are safeties. I mean, the best tandem in the league, by far, in our opinion. Let's start with Mr. Micah Hyde. And throw it over the fence to you.
I think Jordan Poyer gets talked about more, and maybe it's just because of the whole contract dispute, not showing up for OTAs and whatnot. But I'm going to say something. I think Micah Hyde is our best safety on the team. I'm just going to put it out there, Mike. I think he is so Jordan Poyer is underrated, but I think Micah Hyde is even more underrated. The guy he's a center fielder. He's your prototypical center fielder, but he can also come up and play in the run game a little bit. He's a good football player, man, and he offers versatility. He can even return punts if we need him to return punts. He's a sure-handed guy, and his time in Buffalo has been fantastic. And I'm a little biased too because he's probably one of my favorite players on the team. I have a jersey of him too. But what he's done here is just tremendous, and you never hear him talking or anything like that. He doesn't shoot his mouth off or anything like that. He's a good locker room guy. And he's just a very reliable football player. And I just think about that interception he had against the Patriots in the playoffs.
Oh, God, that was amazing.
That was one of the most amazing plays I've seen in my life. Yeah. For him to get on that ball, I mean, that looked like a surefire touchdown.
Right. When you saw
How did he just...
Right.
Unbelievable.
I watch that all the time, and when I see it, I'm like, how did he get that? That was a touchdown.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That changed the game tremendously.
It did. Yeah.
That's the momentum there, stopping him right there. It was a great play. I love
He always seems to come up clutch with big plays when we need him. So I love the guy to death. I mean, we have the best safety tandem in the league, no doubt about it. And I think Jordan Poyer, we'll figure it out. He's going to play this year. He's not going to. You imagine if the Bills went on to win a Super Bowl and Jordan Poyer wasn't a part of it? I mean, I think he'd be kicking himself about that. He's going to be with the Bills this year. It's not going to be an issue. I know it is right now, but it'll be okay. I think Brandon Beane will smooth it over and everything's going to be good.
Yeah, do you think so? Both these guys, neither of these guys were at OTAs, and again, they're voluntary, right?
Yeah, right.
But you
I don't read too much into that.
you saw the likes of Josh Allen out there, though. You saw Von Miller out there, and of course, Von probably just getting used to the guys and greeting them and meeting everybody.
Right.
But do you think Micah Hyde was showing some support there, or do you think he was just if Poyer wasn't an issue or having a contract dispute right now, do you think he would have been there?
I could see that. Yeah, I think maybe that's part of it for sure. But again, they're voluntary. But it is always good to see the veteran presence around, and obviously it shows that they're pretty serious. If you're attending OTAs and they're just voluntary, then it's kind of nice to see veterans out there.
Yeah. No, I mean we do. I mean it does. It's good for the depth, right? Hamlin and
Jaquan
Johnson,
and then even Christian Benford.
More reps. Yeah. So it's good for them for sure. I think camp starts this week, mandatory.
Yes, I believe it does. Yep. Okay. And then training camp's a month away, Mike. Pretty much.
Yeah,
so
amazing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Poyer again. I hope they extend them. I love both Micah Hyde and Poyer.
I do too. Yeah.
I hope they extend them. I hope they get that out of the way quickly. But it'll be interesting to see. I think Poyer deserves it. I think he definitely deserves it. But we'll see what happens there. So, with all that said, with all that we've talked about, are we an upgrade? Well, obviously the safeties are the best, but overall, the secondary, and throw in Taron Johnson and our nickel guys. Again, I'm sorry, Taron. I apologize to you for not having it on the slide. You should have been right there.
Now you got to get a number 7 jersey of Taron, Mike, to make up for it. Change his number this year.
Did we upgrade completely across the board? I think you said yes.
Yeah, I do.
You think it's a slight upgrade, big upgrade? Where do you put it at?
I would say it's this is tough. I would say it's a slight upgrade for right now. Just for right now. But time will tell. I think it's going to be a major upgrade because I think these are good developmental players that we have. And we're not even talking about guys that are behind, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, DeMar Hamlin, and Jaquan Johnson. I've heard a lot of big things on Jaquan Johnson. The coaching staff is huge on him. So he's a special teams guy too. And DeMar Hamlin, I thought, was a steal as well. So it's exciting to have guys that can come in and play if need be. And we can actually have specific packages where they are in besides the fact. So good point, too, that Saran Neal can also play safety because he's got that size. So, it's nice. Nice to have the versatility and the ability to, have depth like that. I love that.
That's funny.
You know what? He was so good in Miami at that, and that's really showed some athleticism because he threw a couple touchdown passes, I believe, and he had a rushing touchdown, I think, once. Man, Matt Hawk.
Funny.
How about Matt Ariza with the 78-yard boot, though?
Yeah.
That looked incredible. Now, it'll be very different, obviously, when the Buffalo wind is, when that wind tunnel is going in the stadium. A little bit different story, I'm sure, but I think he'll have no issue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot's been being made about the holding, right? Because Ariza is not known to be a holder.
Right.
Obviously, that's such an important piece of the special
I think
teams.
that's the only way that Matt Hawk gets a roster spot.
Could you see them wasting a spot for a guy that's just a holder?
That would be insane. You got to find someone that can handle the balls like that. I mean, seriously, like no pun intended, but man. Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Final slide here. This is what that defense could look like opening day. And I have the PFF scores next to them. Obviously, if it has an asterisk next to it, like Terrell Bernard, like Cair Elim, like Christian Benford, those are all PFF scores from the college last year, right? Yep. So Benford's 91.9. Are you freaking kidding me? Is he a guy that? Obviously, when was he drafted, Jake? Was he one of those late round guys? Benford?
Yeah, he was, what was it, 6th round maybe? 5th or 6th? Yeah, 6th round. Villanova.
I don't know if it was him I was reading this about. Is this a potential guy that could go to safety and replace one of these safeties?
Yeah, the versatility, that's another thing. Versatility was huge, I think, in this entire draft for the Bills. And this is a guy that can play corner or safety. He played both in college, so it's a nice thing to have, for him to be able to learn both positions is huge.
So if you look across that front end there, left end, Rousseau had a PFF score. Again, take PFF. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people really hate it when it's their favorite players getting low scores. But it's a tool. It's a tool, and I appreciate all that they put into it.
It's a lot of research. Yeah.
It is a ton of research. So you got Rousseau at 73, Oliver looking good in green, Daquan Jones 66, and then Von Miller, boom, over 90%.
Yep.
And then you look at that linebacking core. You got Milano at 67, and look at Tremaine. I'm telling you, the PFF does not favor Tremaine right now.
Yikes, 48.5.
And you got Taron Johnson over there in the slot. Obviously, I have 12 representatives on the field here, but put that strong side linebacker next to the slot guy because, like we already talked about, Terrell could come in for Taron and play be that third linebacker on the field that we've asked for so long. Smith is suspended for 6 games. We don't know. I don't know if he's going to make the squad. I don't know if the Bills are willing to save his spot for 6 games.
Yeah, throw Balin Spector in there.
Yep, for sure. And then, again, so that could be your opening day starting roster. Now, if Trey is out, we obviously said, where did I have him? I don't even have, Dane Jackson would slide over to start. Yep. Probably, it'd be interesting because Dane played on the left side last year when he came in, right?
Yep.
So he's on the left side. Would that mean Cair would go over to the right? Possibly. So interesting.
That's an interesting take.
What's that?
He's asking if Balin Spector is fast enough to play a little safety because he did play a little bit in college at that position, which is true. I don't know. NFL's different, man. It's a different ball game, obviously. Would be interesting to see. Maybe try him out there in preseason a little bit.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot in camp, and we'll learn a lot in preseason. This is a hard team.
My gut is saying no. My gut is saying no. But I think he is his purpose is obviously special teams. But when he's on the field and playing, in the third preseason game and trying to make the roster, which he will, it's going to be interesting to see where they plug and play him. I think he's more of like the maybe interior or outside backer.
All right. Well, that kind of does it. I mean, I really thought, Jake, we'd have a quick show today, but, we love talking about our Bills, and there is no such thing as a quick show.
No, we can't.
Us.
Yeah.
We're about an hour and 15 minutes into this thing. Unbelievable.
Yep.
But it was super fun. And overall, so the question, did we do enough, Jake? Did we do enough to prevent a 13-second scenario? What's your answer to that?
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Did we do enough to compete with the likes of the Rams, which we're going to find out soon? Did we do enough that we could win a Super Bowl with this defense?
Absolutely.
Because I don't want the offense to have to carry us. Playoff time comes around, you need their defense to show up.
Right.
You need the defense. I mean, Cincinnati did it in that game in the AFC Championship against Kansas City. Their defense came up huge with Mahomes having a ball with a minute to go. They were able to stop them and win that game. So, okay, well, I have to agree with you. I think because it all starts at that front, and because that, to me, was a big, substantial upgrade, it's going to make everyone behind them better. We already have the 2 best safeties in the league, and the corners, again, day one is going to be a little shaky, so that scares me on that Thursday night football against the Rams, right?
Right.
That scares the heck out of me. But
you got Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So I have to say, overall, we did upgrade. And I think as the season goes on, again, barring injury, we're only going to get better because Cair's going to be a star in this league. I really believe that. And, of course, once we get Trey White back, that's going to be huge for us. You've been here in October for him?
That's what a lot of people have been saying. Like, first week of October is a realistic timeline. So, okay. I don't know. I mean, corner, so you got to think, too. I mean, it's a major league injury. I think it was all ligaments in his knee. I know now modern medicine, like, you can get back pretty quick. But as a corner, I think of all positions, that is the – I guess that is the position where you don't want to have a knee injury at because that is like – I mean, you're cutting on a dime. There's a lot there. So, you want to make sure he is good to go.
Well, there's some receivers who had some big injuries from the collegiate.
Oh, yeah.
And they expect to be ready day one. Like you said, modern medicine I hear people talk about an ACL is not a big deal anymore.
It used to be a career-ending injury
Right,
back in the
maybe
day.
that's
like
the
back
case,
in the
but
80s. Yeah.
Buffalo's being extra cautious, being very quiet about when they expect. It wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden come preseason they activate him before day one. It wouldn't surprise me at all, but we just don't know yet. And even when he does come back, it's obviously what form of him will we have? It'll take
What
a while.
percentage does he play? Does he actually play a full game, or is he just rotational?
Yeah. Well, I did mention my dad going live this afternoon for his first time ever, his live show, SoCal
Awesome.
Saber. If you're listening to this channel right now, you should go check out my dad's channel, SoCal Saber. Just search for him on YouTube. He's going live this afternoon at 4:00, talking about the Buffalo Sabres and the upcoming draft. So my dad's a huge Saber fan, and he brings lots of good information. Also, his channel is very cool because he does a lot of game reviews. So for those out there that love playing board games, he does a couple video games, but mostly board games. And it's always cool to bring the family around together at the table and play board games. Jake, you guys ever do that? You ever play any board games these days?
People here, Mike. We love board games here. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually, I have a list of board games I need to acquire. So I have a ton on that list there. Hey, shout out to, I think that is my brother-in-law's brother, Josh. Shout out to Josh. Great to see you, man. Josh
Rust Belt Diecast Racing?
Man. Yep.
This guy? All right.
Yep,
well, welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel and you haven't already.
He's seen our show before, I know.
Drop a nickel on that subscribe button for us. I love the name.
Let's go, Josh.
Rust
Belt.
Yeah,
he does some cool stuff too. Check out his channel.
Oh, he's got a channel as well?
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, I know I'll be out there at 4:00 watching my dad do his thing live. It's always a little nerve-wracking when you go live for the first time. Heck, I still get butterflies every time we go live. Every time I press that go live button.
Is he going to use StreamYard? What is he using?
He's using StreamYard.
Nice.
Using StreamYard because it's just so easy to use. Let's see what else did the Trek reviewer say.
Oh wow, that's a long time ago.
Oh boy. Wow.
Back when we were in the black and red jerseys.
The end of the year looked promising, Trek reviewer. The end of the year looked very promising. So check out the show. And I'm I don't get to watch the Sabres as much as possible, as much as I'd like. I love hockey, and I definitely would watch them. I just get caught up in all the other stuff we're doing for the channel. We do golf shows during the week. We have fantasy football shows that have yet to start up, but they will be at some point. And of course, Jake and I doing our shows about the Bills. So, Jake, any last thoughts? Any shout outs you have today before we end this thing?
Oh man, shout outs. Not really a ton of shout outs, I guess, but I am usually the shout out guy. Mike, I'm just ready for the season to start. I've been just watching Josh Allen highlights every day, and I don't know. Like I said, I've been watching European League football, been watching a little USFL, just trying to fill the void. Been rewatching like old games, like NFL Throwback. You ever go to NFL Throwback's channel on YouTube? It's incredible. I freaking love it. It's so fun because it's just like all these old, not even just Bills. Like I'm talking like I watched a game from 2001 between like the Jets and Chargers. It was incredible. I just love hearing the old names and stuff like that. I just need football back in my life. So that's what it's all about. But hey, shout out to you, Bill. I wish you nothing but luck today. You're going to kill it. I'll be trying to tune in if I can here. So absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Jake, as always, great job. Thank you so much. The insight you bring is top notch. So appreciate you.
Oh man, thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.
Right. And so everyone else, enjoy your weekend. Again, appreciate everyone who joined us in the channel. And for those that are going to watch it later, please, most importantly, drop a nickel on that subscribe button for us. Give us a like, give us a comment. We love the comments, right? And if you're over on Facebook World, now's the time to come on over to YouTube, search for Nickel City Mafia, and join the channel there. We'd love to get you over on the YouTube side. Hey, if you're happy with just watching us over on Facebook World, that's okay as well. We appreciate all that support. So that's it for us. Nice short show for us, as usual.
Nothing short-winded with us, Mike.
Oh,
ever.
Man. All right. Well, you have a great one, Jake. Everyone else, enjoy your Sunday. We'll talk soon.
All right. Hey, go Bills.
Go Bills.